Dan, if you lived in West Texas long enough, you'll know the Dunes sagebrush lizard. Tonight, the species is in the middle of a legal battle. If you're new to the area, you have to know more about the lizard to understand just why this small little creature is to potentially blame for the impact on the oil and gas economy. If you don't know what the Dunes sagebrush lizard is, it's home out here in the desert areas of West Texas, where it has specifically adapted itself to survive.
It's a relatively small lizard that's a habitat specialist. It lives only in kind of stabilized sand dune country like we have here in West Texas and southeastern New Mexico, where the plant communities are mostly shinnery oak and sand sage.
But it can't just live near any old sand dunes. The dunes have to have some stability to them.
If the dunes are constantly shifting and moving around, it would not be suitable habitat for it. So it's got to be those very stabilized sand dunes. And even then, it can't just live just anywhere in those sand dunes. It lives primarily in blowout areas, and so which the wind comes in and blows out areas in between clusters of sagebrush and shinnery oak.
It's why conservatives are arguing to keep the lizard on the endangered species list, as some oil and gas operations may disturb those habitats. Now, to put this all in perspective, here's a look at where the Dunes sagebrush lizards are likely to appear. The green on the map that you're seeing here shows where most of them are, and you can see they're heavily spread out in Winkler and Andrews County. Then it branches out to Ector, Ward, and Crane counties. So just why is this little lizard in the middle of a legal battle? We have News West 9's Jason Freund here to explain just that. Jason?
Well, Alex, this debate has been raging for years, and it all stems from this past June when the Dunes sandbrush lizard was named to the endangered species list. But that naming may have an effect on the oil and gas industry here in the Permian Basin. Congressman August Pfluger says this little guy is bad for oil and gas business, making it harder to drill and mine.
When you have another endangered species to consider and you have to get permission from the federal government to do certain things in the regions where those species are listed as endangered, then it restricts your ability to operate freely. It delays the process, it extends the timeline, and at the end of the day, it costs more money.
Pfluger also says that the oil and gas industry would have to jump through a lot more hoops to get business done. And it will also hit energy workers and the economy, since Pfluger says the U.S. is dependent on oil and gas.
Naming a new endangered species then requires a whole nother set of bureaucratic red tape to climb over. Makes the process longer, costs more money, and at the end of the day, it costs the American people in our economy in a very tough way.
It's why he has already introduced aptly named new legislation against adding the lizard to the endangered species list.
Well, in fact, I've already introduced it. It's called the Lizard Act, and that stands for Limiting the Incredulous Zealots Against Restricting Drilling. And it would repeal this movement this proposal by the administration.
He has also extended an invitation to President Biden and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Director Martha Williams to the Permian Basin. He wants them to see what potential effects adding the lizard to the list would have on the local community.
I want them to come out and see what we do. I want them to see how we do business, the efficiency, the cleanliness, the emissions reductions that we have had, the way we take care of the land and leave it better for the next generation, because that's important to this discussion.